Welcome to the Glenn Beck program tonight. Rumors that there could be a Blogo verdict in the next hour. Oh, I'm all on pins and needles. I can't wait. And the Ground Zero mosque debate continues. You'll be shocked. Shocked, I tell you, to see who agrees with the President of the United States. Oh, no, it's good. And I got a ton of mail last night saying, oh, Glenn, gee, why are you giving up and just talking about God like it's the only answer? Because it is. And I'm not giving up. I'd like to address that concern tonight because I think that says something about us. Plus, the latest on the border. Yeah, more Border Patrol agents are making a very tragic choice. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be that the violence is getting even worse? And can we stop it? Now, here's what they said. The left. When I said there would be death panels. No, yeah. Death panels? Did they come with a much friendlier name than a death panel? Yes. Time to tell the story of America tonight. Come on. They never call. They never write. They never call. Don't you love me, Barack? Hello, America. I have a special treat for those of you who really, really want that Ground Zero mosque to go up. Oh, it's got to be fabulous. They have a right to build it. I think we all know that. But now let's talk about the wisdom of building it. The president first came out firmly in favor of it. Then he used his stern, let me be clear voice, and he said, oh, well, and then he wouldn't talk about the wisdom of it. Why not? It doesn't really take a rocket scientist to see maybe this isn't the best idea. I mean, do you have a right to tell your wife, man, that dress really does make you look fat, honey? Yeah, but it wouldn't be wise for you to do it. But you do have the right. Anyway, let's take a look now at some of the people gathering around and saying, you know, I think the president might be right. Who agrees with building the mosque at Ground Zero? I love this guy. He's just the senior leader of Hamas. Here's what he said.
We have to build the mosque as you are allowed to build church, and the Israelis are building their holy places. We have to build everywhere. If in every area we have Muslims, we have to pray, and this mosque is the only site of prayer.
That's the only place. That's the only place they can do it. By the way, have you ever been to Israel? Because I have. It's really interesting how one group of people seem to be erasing all of the other religions. Maybe it was just me. Nothing says building bridges to me like the leader of Hamas. Am I right or am I right? So that's great. You have Hamas and the president in lockstep. I think that's great. And I can't really get past the fact that the president was lecturing us on the Constitution and religious freedom. In case you missed it, grab some popcorn because it's really good. Go ahead. Watch.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
As a citizen and as president, I believe that Muslims have the right to practice their religion as everyone else in this country.
Yeah.
That includes the right to build a place of worship in a community center on private property in Lower Manhattan in accordance with local laws and ordinances. This is America, and our commitment to religious freedom must be unshakable.
That's it? You're not going to play the ending? Man, I hate that. Well, I bet it has a scary ending, but I'm not sure. He's a stickler for that Constitution thingy, isn't he? Let me tell you. I remember when he was trying to get health care passed. Remember what he said about the Constitution?
I don't spend a lot of time worrying about what the procedural rules are in the House or the Senate.
Procedures. What's the difference? Who cares about procedures when you're talking about the Constitution? Blah, 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 blah. He had bigger fish to fry, like passing something that a lot of people think is unconstitutional. This president and his administration seem to be slightly out of step with the average American. You know, those people who are just bitterly clinging to their God and their guns. If they really cared so much about religious freedoms, then why, may I ask you, I'm going to puzzle for a minute. I'm going to puzzle and puzzle until my puzzler is sore on this one. Why did the Obama administration, a mere 5 weeks into its presidency, officially state their intention to rescind a Bush-era regulation called the Freedom of Conscience Act? That. Well, what does that mean? It means if something bothers you, you better do it. Unless this was in. See, the act cut off all federal funds to hospitals or clinics or health care plans that didn't accommodate doctors and other health care providers who refused to participate in care that they felt violated their personal, moral, or religious beliefs. Here's what our administration said. Well, we've been concerned that the way the Bush rule was written, it could make it harder for women to get the care that they need. May I? Because I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I speak fluent bullcrap. I can translate bullcrap to English. It's not that hard. Once you've done a lot of alcohol in your life, man, that bullcrap runs right out of your mouth. So here it is. BS to English. The care that they need equals abortions. Okay? Then he says, it's worded so vaguely that some have argued that it could limit family planning counseling, abortion, and even potentially blood transfusions and end-of-life care. End-of-life care. Let me translate bullcrap to English. End-of-life care, night-night, Grammy, pulling the old plug. But more on that later. Now, as the freedom of conscience is still standing now, I wonder why he wanted to yank that out. But when I heard that he wanted to do that, I thought, gee, is that in step with America? That you can't be? I mean, this is a land based on religious freedom. At the same time, our president is lecturing us. He would like to force doctors who believe that abortion is the equivalence of murder. You've got to commit murder or you can't work here anymore. Now, I'm just a simpleton clinging to my imaginary friend in the sky, so maybe somebody's going to have to explain the rationale here. But it's totally cool to go forward with a mosque run by a potentially radical nut job. And it's not. Doctors can't refuse to do procedures that they believe is murder. Can I tell you something? Come here. I'm holding an event the day before 8/28, a week from Friday, 8/27. I'm doing this Restoring Honor thing at the Lincoln Memorial on next Saturday. But at the Kennedy Center the night before, I'm doing this thing with a whole bunch of rabbis and preachers and priests and everybody else. And what we're doing is we're giving this, they're giving speeches or sermons that were actually given at the time of the American Revolution. And then they're gonna put it in today's context. It's gonna be great. Well, my wife and I, we wrote the check to rent out the Kennedy Center, and we're giving all of the tickets away for free because I don't want to profit on that. No, that would be wrong. Well, last week I get a call from the Kennedy Center. They call up and they say, Glenn Beck, and I'm like, yes? You can't, is this going to be prayer there? I'm like, yeah, we're going to start with prayer. We're going to also say the Pledge of Allegiance, too. They went crazy. You can't pray in a building that receives tax dollars. We're the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. And I'm like, oh, sue me. So, after being in my basement, clinging to my .45 caliber Sig Sauer, I decided, we're going to pray anyway. Yeah. So that's what we told them. And Kennedy Center, arrest me. Because we're going to pray before, during, after, maybe spontaneously. We might even sing a few prayers, just because it really will agonize you. So let's see what we have. In America, we have the president making sure that you can build a mosque that's in poor taste, lecturing us about the Constitution. But at the same time, I'm told you shouldn't pray at the Kennedy Center. In fact, they told me at first I couldn't, but then I think they remembered who I was, and they knew it wouldn't end well for them. Then we have a group of Christian students that found in May that they can't discreetly pray on the steps of the United States Supreme Court building. On the steps, they can't do it. Their prayer was abruptly cut short as they were ordered to stop praying on the grounds. Is that, Mr. President, in step with regular America? Is that America? Is that in step with the Constitution? Is that in step with, what did you say about Muslims? Oh, yeah, that people have a right to practice their religion just as anyone else in this country. How do those thoughts line up, Mr. President? Who is it, honestly, who is threatened by people praying outside of a courthouse? I don't care what religion. Who is that hurting? Who walks by like, oh my gosh, I'm so offended, I'm scarred for life? How does that happen? By the way, they were praying for the Supreme Court and the decisions they need to make, and also praying for our congressman who in Washington thinks that's a bad idea. Especially religious zealot like Nancy Pelosi, you know, from San Francisco. She was just telling us not long ago about her favorite word. Here it is.
My favorite word is the word. Is the word.
It is.
And that is everything. It says it all for us. And you know the biblical reference, you know the gospel reference of the word. And that word is, we have to give voice to what that means, the word. Isn't it a beautiful word when you think of it? It just covers everything. Word. Fill it in with anything you want, but of course we know it means the word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us.
She seemed so sincere there. Now, surely a Christian warrior like Nancy Pelosi would appreciate extra prayers, right, Nance? So what sounds more American? A group of people praying for our leaders, or the feds coming in saying no prayer? In regards to prayer, which one is more American? The president was silent on all of these things, but when a mosque was going up next to Ground Zero, he springs into action, tosses his hat right into the ring. Who is this president in step with? I mean, besides Hamas. Who? I know he sternly referenced the Constitution and our founders, but does he even really understand our founders? Has he read, I don't know, what we used to call a book about the founders? Thomas Jefferson, do you think he discouraged public prayer? Come on, Mr. President, call me up. Did he? All of the progressives tonight, I just want you to know, Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States. He was the principal author of something called the Declaration of Independence. It's a very big document. They had very large notepads. Hard to go to school those days. This is the actual document. People will be like, he's got the actual document, he's just throwing it around. Shh, shh. I'm going to Washington next week. I'm switching it. All right. Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. He wrote it. He knew a little something about freedom and religion. Now, here's something you probably never heard before. Did you know that this building, do you even recognize it? That was the Capitol building. Do you know that on Sundays it served as a church gathering place? Yeah. Believe it or not, the most regular attendee you'll never guess. He had a designated seat there just for him. Thomas Jefferson. He wouldn't even let the rough weather keep him from missing service. He was so dedicated that he'd get on horseback and ride in the driving rain so he could get there. So it stands to reason that he wouldn't have trotted over. You know, the guy who wrote this would have trotted over to the students praying on the steps of the courthouse, if the courthouse had been there, and tell them to stop before they offended anybody. And he would have done it not just because it would have made him late for the church service he was attending inside the Capitol building. I don't know anybody who's offended by prayer. I don't know anybody who's offended by all of this stuff. You know, I started at glennbeck.com, 15-minute spiritual thought of the day. It's not just for Christians or anybody else. It's just, today I had a rabbi on, Rabbi Lapin. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. He's brilliant. Brilliant. Well, how did you pray with him? He's Jewish. I know. You know, we have a lot more in common. People of faith have got to start standing together. I don't know how people can feel so threatened by faith. I really don't. I hate to tell you. When we need help, we all call to the same guy. You can put your hands over your ears and say, la, 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 but you know what? It's not going to change reality. There are things that need to be said. Things that need to be said. One of them is, we really been, you know what I'm saying? We should call him. He's doing what I do every day. He's like, they don't call me. They don't call me. Here's some other things that have to be said, and nobody wants to say them. But they have to be said. Nobody wants to hear them.